Good day. In this presentation, I will be covering summaries of Chapter 1 to 5.1 of the study. The title of the study is A Proposed Redevelopment of Tiongco Football Grounds, Developing Supportive Environments for the Enhancement of Football Athletic Development through Athletic Optimization with Modern Sports Architecture. To begin, I want to start by stating that Philippines' football athletic performance has dropped in quality in recent years across almost all categories. There are no clear indications that the national teams will be able to or continually compete at the highest level in the future. Participation in the sport of football becomes more relevant, and with Philippines looking for economic opportunities and football economy getting undeniably larger by the year, it has never been more timely to join in on the party. This study investigates what supportive spaces, with athletic optimization, with modern sports architecture, can positively contribute to the training and development of local players, especially the youth. The statement of the problem is that the Philippine football teams have been underperforming across most, if not all, categories due to the limitations that are unintentionally set onto the players. This results to a lot of opportunities missed from not participating and negatively performing, leading to a decrease in national football engagement, which negatively affects the fans, athletes, stakeholders, and the economy. Through supporting athletic development, there can be significant yields for the athletes, the sport, the local community, and even the country as a whole. On to the right are the problem statements. And the images below are just some of the worst defeats of Philippine national teams in different categories from second half of 2023 to 2024. The goals of the study is to come up with design guidelines that incorporates the necessary supportive spaces that can be adopted by football training facilities in Philippines that supports the development of athletes. It also investigates the correlation between physical and psychosocial needs of the athletes to their built environment. Through this, the empirical evidences can be gathered to promote the adoption of athletic optimization onto the sports facilities in the form of modern sports architecture. The objectives are to characterize the existing conditions of the site, determine the necessary supportive spaces, ascertain the impacts of athletic optimization and modern sports architecture, establish the minimum FIFA standard guidelines for the facility. Lastly is to analyze the findings to provide realistic recommendations to enhance the athlete development program of the Philippines. This conceptual framework visualizes theories, concepts, assumptions used and discussed in the study, as well as the expectations that are to be achieved by the end. The three theories are self determination, ecological systems, and socio-cultural, that supports the concept of athlete development, which has physical, psychological, social, and cultural aspects, athlete training, and built environment. These concepts will be used to come up with the necessary supportive spaces that will then be incorporated into the design guidelines. For the hypothesis, accommodating the psychosocial, physical, and environmental needs of the athletes will positively contribute to their development. Athletic optimization, in the form of modern sports architecture, can initiate such enhancements by improving their working or playing environment. It is assumed that having a well-equipped, high-performing, and supportive environment is essential for both players and coaches to be successful. It is also assumed that athletic optimization could be the key to a successful athlete development program. These assumptions are necessary to realize the benefits of a redeveloped modern sports environment to the athletes, but will remain to be assumptions until proven. As for the scope and limitation, the application of this study shall be limited to a national context, in this case, Philippines. Philippine, Filipino football players of all ages, gender, condition, or disposition are to be included. To put it simply, anyone who plays a sport are qualified participants. This study will not cover extracurricular or unrelated events and introduction of other sports or non-football playing athletes, since these are outside the bounds of football athletic development. Significance of the study. This research contributes to Sports architecture by providing empirical evidences of how football facilities paired with athletic optimization positively contribute to the development of football athletes. This study hopes to provide guidelines on how to better serve the athletes of the country, especially footballers, in hopes of propelling them to their world class potential. Chapter 2. The review of related literature will be subdivided into 9 components, 5 of which are taken from the title of the topic, namely redevelopment, supportive environments, athletic development, athletic optimization, and modern sports architecture. This is the complete list of the 9 subchapters of the literature review. General overview of football covering the international to national and economic context. Redevelopment discusses the type of redevelopment that best suits the site. Related and applicable guidelines and legal provisions. Football facilities covers existing literatures regarding the football facilities as an athletic environment and the benefits of its utilization. Supportive spaces will discuss the necessary infrastructure or environmental features that are required for a successful athletic development program. Athlete development covers an in-depth discussion of the developmental concepts relating to the individual or athletes themselves. Athletic optimization discusses external factors or concepts that have influence on the athletes and their development. Modern sports architecture simply covers the architectural concepts that are related to the proposed athletic facility and football-related examples for the better understanding and visualization of the study. Chapter 3. Research Methods and Procedures. In this study, a descriptive research design has been used to analyze the impacts of different variables and existing researches and studies on the development of an athlete, more specifically, a footballer. The subject for this research are Filipino football players of all categories, specifically those who use a Tiongkok football field often and consistently. Although other football related personalities, such as coaches, sports experts, fans, and alike, might qualify as participants, the players are the focus for this study. There are 4 research instruments to be used in the study. Surveys and questionnaires are used to collect figurative responses from the chosen participants. It will be recorded to provide statistical figures to the data. Interviews are helpful to gather reliable and heartfelt feedback from experts and qualified participants through verbal communication with the guidance of relevant questions or topics. Observation will be conducted during site visits to document the actual conditions, situations, and interactions happening on the site itself and the research subjects. Literature instrument is useful for sourcing data from already existing literature and experiments. These literary sources are to be properly referenced and acknowledged in texts whenever they are used. In this subchapter of the methodology, the data gathering procedure is elaborated. The data in this study are gathered from football-oriented participants, mainly the players themselves, along with other qualified respondents. The data collection process is estimated to span for about 2 to 3 weeks. This research makes use of both primary and secondary data collection methods or sources. The primary data will be sourced from surveys, questionnaires, interviews, and observations. The secondary data will be sourced from existing studies, literatures, articles, and experiments. This research framework is an organized visual aid of the problem statement, methods, tools, and analysis used and expected outcomes of the data collection process. This is where the 4 established research instruments will be utilized. The commonly used methods are literature review, surveys, and interviews. So the observation method will be used only for the second research question, which aims to characterize the existing conditions of Tiongkok football field as well as Davao football community. For data analysis, the data will be analyzed qualitatively, or more specifically, a content analysis method to generate meaningful interpretation from the surveys, interviews, observation, and literature. Before conducting the analysis, the data will be prepared by reading it of the inconsistencies and organized accordingly. Many tools and software are used for storing and organizing and summarization of the data, such as MS Word, MS Excel, JASP, and free word cloud generator. The steps used for analyzing the data will be data cleaning, descriptive analysis, content analysis, narrative analysis, and data presentation. The data comprising of transcripts, figures, literature, and images will be organized into textual graphical, and tabular formats to be digestible to the broader audience. These are the components of ethical considerations that all researchers should follow when conducting a study. Informed consent to make sure that the respondents are willing to participate, confidentiality to ensure that participants their privacy is a top priority, non-maleficence to ensure the safety and convenience of the participants during the data gathering process, justice to ensure fairness toward participants before and during the process of data collection. Integrity gives the assurance that the data collection of the study is honestly, transparently, and authentically conducted. Beneficence informs the participants of the potential benefits and uses of their responses and insights to encourage enthusiasm and honesty to their answers. Chapter 4: Presentation, Analysis, and Interpretation of Data. These are the charts based on the survey conducted with the players. 1 verifies that they have experience playing on the grounds. 2 asks if they experienced injuries while playing there. 3 their opinions of the Philippine national teams. 4 their opinion of the football facilities in Davao City. 5 their opinion of Tiongkok football grounds. 6 answers their satisfaction of the grounds. 7 whether they agree to an upgrade to the grounds. 8 whether they prefer hosting larger events in the future. 9 whether they agree to a facility to prepare them and future players. 10 asks if they think they would have developed better. 11 asks for their preference for a facility. And 12 asks for their preference for a playing surface. For 13, they are made to select as much supportive spaces as they want to signify their most desired amenity. For 14, the only open ended question is asking their favorite football facility or stadium. 15 asks for their preferred stadium design. As you may have noticed, these data are mostly preferential. That is because the players' desires play a huge role for their motivation to train at the facility. A facility that is not inviting or attractive for the players will not be helpful for their development. Since the site is gated, the venue is generally empty during most of the day. The only people present on site 24/7 is the guardians and the security staff. The venue is only occupied once the training starts. However, parents use the opportunity to relax and socialize by the river. There is entrance and exit point, playing field, Davao River, fisherman community, neighboring community, site boundaries, adjacent institution, mini mangrove forest, pitch condition, team bench or area, DSRFA office, Bolton Bridge view, assembly area, the century-old tree, riverbank assessment, site vegetation, riverside vegetation, waiting area, guardhouse, sanitary provisions, and drainage lines. All of these observations during off hours have been analyzed and considered in the planning of the proposal. During tournaments and other large events, the site can be gather up thousands of people, which undercapacitates the venue. Some examples of these are as shown. Parking spaces can be congested. Comfortable spectator areas are almost non-existent. Commercial stalls are detached from the rest of the facilities, which can be troublesome when it rains. And there are no provisions for players, teams, and coaches to rest during their break. These observations during peak usage of the site contributes to the data for the planning of the proposal to accommodate and address said issues. The interviews were conducted to get insights from experts and relevant personalities. Participant 1 is a coordinator of PSC Mindanao. Participant 2 is a physical therapist. Participant 3 is a master in physical education. Participant 4 is a master in sports management. Participant 5 is a former professional coach of Davao Aguilas and current sports coordinator of Holy Cross of Davao. Participant 6 is a club president of one of the clubs in Davao and a voluntary engineer appointed by the SRFA. Participant 7 is a former UAAP and PFL player, and among shown are some of their insights. For the analysis of the literature review, multiple sources have been utilized for the study, all of which have been organized into different sections and equally relevant to the study. All the contents in this section have been sourced or directly related to the entirety of Chapter 2. The laws applicable to the study are as follows: National Building Code of the Philippines as the primary building law, accessibility law for PWDs, fire code for the fire safety of the users, sanitation code as basis for sanitary provisions, and Davao CLUP for local city and land use ordinance. As for the guidelines and literature from football federations, FIFA will be the principal federation, which means that all other football federations are subsidiary to it. Following the related legal provisions and guidelines, there will be three more subsections of literature analysis that will follow, namely, supportive spaces for athletic development, athletic optimization with modern sports architecture, and related and similar examples to the proposal. As a simplification, the components of athletic development will be analyzed, then transitioned into supportive spaces. After which, when the supportive spaces are identified, it will transition to athletic optimization, then modern sports architecture, which will be the physical representation of the optimized spaces. The data interpretation of the interpretation of data contains a design guidelines in which can be found a detail on the manuscript. The guideline is divided into sections in the following order: general and site specific, stadium guidelines, development center, supportive spaces within the development center, field of play sizes, and usage recommendation of the entire site and its facilities, all of which will be tabulated and explained. Site selection criteria is based on FIFA site selection guidelines. It is divided into the following components under availability are appropriately sized site, property issues or ownership, planning and permission, which is pending since there are no initiation of the proposal, accessibility and logistics, sustainability, users and competition, local impact, safety and security, and the additional component of derived from the data is community suitability, all of which have been applied to the site and have been checked all the boxes except for one since that is pending since it is a hypothetical proposal. Chapter 5: Site Analysis and Schematic Site Plan. These are the bearings and measurements of the site. The total area is approximately 50,250 square meters or 5.25 hectares. The site is almost completely flat with an adjacent major river. This means that the elevation of structures shall be purely artificial while at the same time permanent. There are multiple views and vistas in and around the site that shall be used to the advantage of the proposal. The major vegetation on site is mostly found near the boundaries and mostly alongside the river. In addition to being adjacent to Davao River, the site is also in close proximity to Davao Gulf or the coast of Davao City. Therefore, the facility should prioritize or take advantage of the opportunity for natural ventilation that the location has. As indicated on NOAA's hazard assessment map, there are high risks for both flood and storm surge, while little to no risk for a landslide. The site is currently classified as a recreational zone, which may change upon the nature of the proposal. The site's proximity to the majority of city's population is well encapsulated in a 10-kilometer radius. The site is mainly connected to a national highway which services the vehicles going to the site. The only way to access the site is a minor road directly connected to the national highway, where the site is cornering both road types. The strengths of the site is its central location. Several modes of public transport are available. It is already famous among Babaweños. For its weakness, the current road layout and capacity, lack of adjacent complementary establishments, traffic on the national highway might be an issue. Opportunities: there is a massive commercial opportunity. The site's ecosystem and atmosphere can be for tourism and recreation. Multiple views are accessible from the site. For threats, climate change is a threat and not just for the site itself. The potential community backlash from the neighboring community, the nature of the proposal may attract criminal activities. This is a schematic site plan of the proposal. The areas indicated by the pictures are the main structural features of the site, namely the stadium, main entrance and drop-off for the stadium, basement parking, development center, floating dock, community space, riverside park, pitch 2 stands, and the century-old tree. As a closing remark, for this particular proposal, it is important that the site be extremely connected and free-flowing in between most of said areas, since there will be great circulation of people throughout the different areas. Thank you for listening.